Most of us are taught just to be consumers.
Yep.
We're taught
trade
to
time for money, go buy cool things to flex.
Exactly, and that's it. We're never taught to do anything else. And I mean, think about the last time your teachers taught you about the importance of investing your money.
They don't know how to do it either.
Exactly.
They couldn't hope to teach me.
And so that's where you have to be willing to go out of your way to learn how some of these things work. Because if you don't, you're just going to be a pawn in the system. And it's very unfortunate. It sucks. And this is where I'm trying to help provide that education, because these are things I never grew up learning. These are things that I wish somebody would have told me. I see it in so many people. I used to guest teach in Detroit public schools.
Whoa.
And, these are good kids from rough areas. A lot of times don't have two parents in the home. Sometimes don't even have a parent in the home. There were some kids he didn't have, or his mom is not around. He was raised by a gang just because there's no parents. And so they provided him shelter. And it's crazy because you get stuck into a system, a cycle, because you don't have any way of learning or seeing anything else. And, like one of the first times I was there, I asked the kids, how many of you guys have a job? Most of them raised their hand. Most of them have an income. And they're in high school, right? They're going to school and they're working. And next question is, how many of you have a bank account? Nobody. Not a single person had a bank account.
Jesus, man.
And so I was like, what do you do with your money? So we get a check, we go to the liquor store, we cash the check. Now the liquor store owner is going to take 1 to 10% of that check.
Oh God.
And then what are you going to do? You're going to buy candy, you're going to buy pop, you're going to buy a bunch of dumb stuff on your way out, and now you're left with only half of your check. And now what do? It's this, I like to call it net zero thinking, where if I have cash, I need to spend it. I have $500 in my bank account, I got to make that zero. If I have $1,000, I got to spend it. Because we think, oh my God, if I had 10 grand, I would go on this nice vacation. If I had 50 grand, I would buy this car. We think in terms of, it's that consumer mindset of, if I have this money, I need to spend it. But this is where we have to break out of that and understand, what can we do differently? And instead of just spending all of this money, and it's much more difficult now because of the higher cost of living, but it's so much more important now than ever, where you got to create this margin. I call it like an equation where your wealth is really, you take your income minus your expenses, and that's equal to your investments plus your savings. So you take your income, whatever money you make, you subtract your expenses, your houses, your home, your clothes, your car, whatever your expenses are. And if you have some money left, either this money is going to be saved or it's going to be invested. Well, if you have some money left, you're already, doing something that a lot of people are not doing. You're more than the majority of people. Right now, I just read a study yesterday. 7 out of 10 Americans across the board are living paycheck to paycheck. 50% of Americans that are making $250,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck.
That's crazy.
It's not how much money you make. It's what you do with the money you make that is so important. And so now, if you have a buffer, you're already better than the majority of people. Now the question is, what do you do with it? Well, we're taught, save it. Save all of it. So your investments are zero, and your savings, you're trying to grow that, thinking that you're gonna become wealthy. But you're never gonna be able to outsave inflation. Your savings are literally making you poorer each and every day. However, you don't want to just not save any money. You got to be strategic with it. What I like to say is, there are 3 reasons why you should be saving money. You save money for an emergency, have somewhere between 3 to 12 months worth of expenses, depending on your risk tolerance. Save money for a big purchase. You want to buy a car, you want to buy a house, you need some cash to do that. Save money for an investment. If you're not saving money for one of these 3 reasons, you are saving your money the wrong way, and it's making you poorer each and every day.
Now, you didn't say save for retirement.
Yeah, invest for retirement. You talk about retirement, we're about to face a big retirement crisis, because traditionally retirement was what people like to call a 3-legged stool. You had your Social Security, you had your pension, and then you had your own investments or your savings, what a lot of people like to do. Well, pensions are something you only read in history books anymore. They're a thing of the past. So those don't exist anymore. Social Security is running into a very, very, very big dilemma, because right now, if you are, under the age of 45, the Social Security money that you're paying isn't going to go to fund your Social Security income. It's going to fund somebody else to retire, because the Social Security program has much bigger expenses than income. And so it is on the path of being completely dried up, of just running out of money.
Is this because the younger demographics are just a smaller cohort than the older, or?
there's a lot of reasons for it. It's how the Social Security money is spent. It's how many people are requiring Social Security money, how long people are living for, how long these Social Security checks have to go out for. A lot of bad calculations, bad investing. And so the Social Security fund is now drying up. And so now everyone says, well, I'm not worried about it because the government can just print more money and do bigger Social Security checks. That's what we're seeing this year. We saw between 2021 and now the biggest Social Security raise ever is between 5 and 6%, something in that range, which one is already not keeping up with inflation. So yeah, you got a bigger Social Security check, but oh no, it's not buying you as much as you could have last year. But then the second issue is just think about that for a second. If the government is going to print more money, which means the Fed is going to print money, give that to the government to give you bigger Social Security checks. What does that mean? You got a bigger check, great, but now the cost of things have grown even faster than the growth of your check. You cannot outprint inflation. It just creates more inflation. And so, so you had the pension that's essentially gone for the vast majority of people. Social Security is not going to be able to fund your retirement, which leaves people with the third stool, which is your own investments. Now, traditionally, you say, oh, I'll save some money, save 10% of your income. That's not going to do it. Your savings are going to make you poorer each and every day. And the second thing is your 401k. And, it's a great start for the average investor because now it is like automatic putting a little bit of money into some investments. However, your 401k was never, ever, ever intended to be your sole investment plan. The founder of the 401k even came out and said that the 401k has gone awry. It is a monster because now so many people are hoping that they're going to be able to rely on their 401k to retire. And that's not what it's intended for. And it will never be able to be enough for you. And so a lot of people have this false hope that, okay, yeah, whatever, Social Security will give me a little bit extra, but my 401k will take care of me. But that was never the plan. And so now what does that mean? Your 401k, just think of that like as if you invest in your 401k, your IRA, that is the absolute base. Your savings are not going to do it. This is where you have to go out and invest yourself. And that's where, oh my God, how do I do that? We're never taught how to do this. We're never told how to do this. We're never given direction on how to do this. So you have to be the one now to go out of your way to start learning this. And thank God for YouTube because now we've decentralized education. But the question is now, you have to be willing to do it and you have to understand who your teachers are. Because there's crap on YouTube. There's also good stuff on YouTube. And we're never taught how to learn. We're usually just taught what to learn. So now we have to be willing and go out of our way to become smarter, to start learning and understand how do we learn the right things and then apply it. Because the downfall with investing is it's risky. You got to be willing to get punched in the face. You have to be willing to lose money because it's a part of the process. And it sucks. It sucks losing money. I made a video on my YouTube channel, Minority Mindset, where I went over my worst real estate deal ever. And the reason why I made it is so you can see, look, every real estate investor has got at least one bad deal. And to date, that's the only deal that I've ever lost money on. And I'll walk you through every single bad thing because everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, plus a whole lot more. And it was one of the biggest headaches of my life. But my goal is, yeah, you can laugh at me, make fun of me, but you're going to see like, holy cow, things can and will go wrong. So just anticipate it because it's your real life tuition. You got to be willing to learn. And it's a price to pay. And it's one of those things where, just like with entrepreneurship, everybody wants to be successful as an entrepreneur. Everybody wants to be rich. But how many people are going to be willing to get punched in the throat and keep going, keep getting back up and keep doing it? It's very difficult, which is why, not everybody should be an entrepreneur. Try it, but it's not for everybody. But everybody can work to own this equity, right? This ownership, these assets, and everybody needs to.
How much did you pay for your first share of Ford Motor Company?
$2.
So this is what I want people to hear. And I'm glad it's coming from you. I was very honored to have Wall Street Trapper on as well, because I want people that are, I know minority in the name of your program isn't about being a literal ethnic minority, but it's about thinking in a new way. But having people that are minorities, at least in this country, say like, hey, if you do the right things, you're going to be able to change your circumstance. What do you say to people that either think, well, it's okay for other people, but for me, either because I'm poor or I'm a minority, it's never going to work for me?
So I'll kind of give you the story of my family in that sense, because the reason why people come to America is because of opportunity. you have the opportunity to own something, own a home, potentially own equity in companies, build your own company. You have the opportunity to build something, which is something that you can't do in a lot of other places in the world. My grandparents were refugees. They had some land, and in 1947, the state of Punjab was severed. And when that happened, if you were a Sikh, which is the religion that I am, and you're on the west side, either you migrate east or you're going to be killed.
Whoa.
So now my grandparents, literally, all they had were the clothes on their back and a sword in their hand, and they ran. During that process, my grandfather was attacked, and he had to literally fight for his life. He saw his uncle get his head chopped open in front of him, put him on a horse, and that was the last time he saw him. He got to the new east side of Punjab in India, and didn't even have shoes on his feet, didn't have a place to sleep, had literally nothing. Now, from there, you got to start, right? You got to start now all over from scratch. And there's a lot of political issues, unfortunately over there. And so that's when my parents, my dad, my mom were like, we want to get out of this country. We want to go somewhere where we have better opportunity. Come to America, where don't speak the language, don't know the culture, don't know the people, don't know how life is. I mean, India is a very different world. It's a beautiful place, but it's very different than here. And you start over. Why?
As a minority.
As a minority, just for the opportunity, because that's all, there's risk, but you see the opportunity there.
And do you think, looking back now, do you think that, I often think that what we refer to as being an ethnic problem is actually just, there is an element of what I call school of fish. Like you're going to group up with people that look like you. It's just so embedded in the subconscious. But I think a bigger thing is just, it's either majority or minority, right? Because globally, the Indian ethnicity is massive.
Billions, yeah.
But when you come to the US, now you're a minority. Do you think that the trade-off of going from being the majority ethnicity, I mean, everybody in India basically shares the ethnicity. I know there's religious differences. Sure. But then coming here and being a minority, does the opportunity that America provide outweigh whatever detriment there is to being a minority?
Again, if you're willing to work, you have to be willing to work and kind of just break out of whatever. Anytime you see a majority kind of just groupthink, you have to be willing to question that. But, the opportunity you have here in America, is it more difficult now than before? Absolutely. Is it more difficult for some people than others? Absolutely. However, it's the best opportunity you have in the world. And, that's why literally, even until today, you have people that are willing to risk their lives to come to this country. And I mean, actually risk their lives. And so, you have that aspect. And I can speak for me where Sikhs, the religion that I am, they are a minority in India. And, there's a lot of issues that come with being a minority anywhere. But again, where do here you have more opportunity than anywhere else. And so the way I look at it, for me personally, is my parents came to this country with next to nothing. So I got nothing to lose and everything to gain, right? And so this is the place where that opportunity exists. But now you have to be willing to work hard, but you also have to be willing to work smart. I can't stand when people say work smart, don't work hard. But to me, that's all complete crap.
Because you have to do both?
You have to do both. Because if you're not willing to work hard, your smart working is effectively worthless. You have to be willing to apply both together. And I had none of this, financial education, right? For me, it was, Dad, I want to go invest in real estate. You're stupid, go become a doctor. I had to do all my entrepreneurial stuff in secret. My parents didn't even know that I was doing this business stuff until I was on the news. I was running a different sock company. And this is now, a couple of years after. And we were doing well, and we got featured on the local news. Now, my parents got a call from a family friend. And they said, we saw your son on the news. And my parents were like, oh, God, what did he do now? And they're like, no, he has this company. He's doing really well. They're growing. And my dad was like, what? And so now, he sits me down. He's like, what the heck is going on? And that was the first time they were like, okay, you can actually do something with this, right? And it was like, you have to, for me, it was like, I understood what I wanted. I knew that I saw this, like really, I wanted to achieve success. And I knew I was doing it for good intentions. I knew I didn't have like bad intentions with what I wanted to do. But the question was, how do I get there? Because it was like, if I try to convince my parents, it is like, it's going to be extremely stressful for me. I'm going to stress them out. It's just not going to work. So I'm just going to try to figure it out myself. And if I fail, well, guess what? I'm in school. So I kind of had that backup. But for me, I went to law school as well. The problem was I wasn't the best student in school, in law school particularly. I did well on the bar exam. I loved learning. And so for me, I knew I needed to pass the bar. And so I studied hard and I actually did really well. But in the classes, I was not very good, except for the couple of the business ones because I really enjoyed that. But for me, it was just I just need to get the degree. That way I can be done with this, because I went to law school because my parents found out that I wasn't going to be a doctor. They're like, you got to at least become an attorney to keep pride in the family. And so I was like, all right, well, if I go to law school, I can go to law school part-time. And if I go to law school part-time, I can work on me and my business full-time. So that was my mindset with it. And, but I knew that, if I graduate law school and things don't work out, I don't even know how I'm going to work as an attorney, because I have no idea. I don't know how to file a lawsuit. I have no idea what to do. So if I graduate, I'm going to have to start all over and figure it out after I'm done. And it used to give me a lot of anxiety, but I was like, this is why I have to figure it out. It was a mission because, one, I wanted to give back to my family and myself. And second, I wanted to do it because I wanted to prove a lot of people wrong. And I remember when I used to talk about this, everyone's like, oh, you shouldn't do it out of spite. Don't do things because you want to prove someone wrong. I was like, you don't understand. You don't get some of the things that you hear, the things that you see. And sure, maybe it can't drive you forever, but it can take, that pain of seeing the things that people say, because, in between, I started a sock company. And when I was doing the sock business, this is when, people started to be aware that I was an entrepreneur, and I wasn't super successful. I was doing okay. And that's when I got on the news. But, just think about this. I was supposed to be a doctor. Now here I am selling socks on the internet. And everybody is like, oh, so you left, this idea of becoming a doctor. Now you're just selling socks. And, hearing that for years, it's like, one day I'm going to have your kid want to work for me. And that was in the back of my, I never said that, but I was in the back of my mind, your kid's going to want to work for me one day. And it's that driving force where I knew I'm going to prove this person wrong. I'm going to make this person really see that, hey, I am worthy. I can do something. But it takes a lot of work, going back to that. But with anything, being willing to try, being willing to take risks, being willing to make mistakes, and being willing to learn from it. Because, like I said, for me, I was willing to be dumb or stupid. I never saw that risk until more recently, because for me, it was just I know this is what I want. And so the risk really was never even on my horizon. If I had a business idea, I would start it that same night. Because for me, it was I want to do this. I want to figure it out. Books were kind of giving me an idea. My teachers weren't teaching me this. I don't know who to turn to. My experience was my teacher. That's how I learned how to be an entrepreneur, how I learned to start investing. That's when I started learning about money, because, the whole issue with the money stuff, this is something that we're never, ever even remotely taught about. And it's now becoming a real pressing issue.
You have to be willing to try, learn, risk failure. You are going to fail. I always try to get people to understand that failure is the most information-rich data stream that exists. It sucks, it hurts, it can be costly, but one, in triggering the parts of the brain that have to do with pain, you trigger the parts of the brain that have to do with memory and focus. So you're more likely to really look at that thing that you don't want to happen again to figure out why that happened, memorize it, and then you're going to get better the next time. And to your point about having a chip on your shoulder and people telling you that you can't do something and thinking one day, your kid's going to ask to work for me, it probably as a primary driver over an extended period of time, like you said, it'd be a little caustic to the soul. But it's so powerful in terms of, so you've got light energy and dark energy, right? Yeah. Just to be all Star Wars about it. And what I have found in my own life is that the hardest times, the light energy will only get me so far, and then I'll hit a brick wall and I'll want to stop. And it's only when I tap into the dark energy of I will not let this person be right about me. I am not going to back down because I know they're just waiting for me to fail, that it actually does give me another boost. Now, I try to split it, call it 80-20, where I'm spending 80% of my time in the light, the beautiful things I want to do, the people I want to help. But dude, let me tell you, 20% of the time, I'm thinking that the person that really wants to tap dance on my grave.
It gets you going, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And I found the same way, because for me in the beginning, it was just figuring it out. I went from business idea to business idea to business idea, because for me, I was just trying to figure it out, hopping from one idea to the next. But then, you talk about the light energy. For me, it was my really driving my passion and my mission and my purpose. And that became more of the light energy because now, after a certain point, you're like, the money doesn't drive you. It just is what it is, right? It's just like, I'm fine. Like I'm not a very materialistic person. I don't really care, about brand names, designer names. The first time I made $1 million, I was driving a $500 car, right? It just doesn't matter. Sure, it provides some sort of benefit, more comfort, more value, but after a certain point, that money is not a driver. It's now, what is my purpose? And for me, that minority mindset, where originally started making videos, I wasn't doing it to make money. I did this as a hobby because I got scammed in that sock company. I'm just talking about things that, I wish somebody would have told me when I was younger, like having to do with business, having to do with money. So I did it as a hobby. And people will say, you can't just do that as a hobby. I'm like, dude, you don't understand. I didn't invest any money into it. I was making videos off my phone. I bought like a $30 or maybe $35 tripod off of Amazon. And I was just making videos for fun. And like my friend asked me, and I think I was around 10,000 subscribers. And he asked me, he's like, how much money are you making off of YouTube? Like, what do you mean? He's like, how much money are you making from your ad revenue off of YouTube? I don't know. What do you mean? He goes into my YouTube backend with me. And this is before YouTube had requirements of like, you got to have X number of videos, X number of subscribers every time. Anybody could monetize any video. He's like, dude, you haven't even turned monetization on. Click one click and now you can start making money off your videos. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. I really enjoyed it. For me, this was like really fun and something that I loved doing, which is why I did it. And then Minority Mindset started to grow, started to make some money. And I was like, oh, I can actually like do this. Like I can work on just spreading this purpose. Well,
what is it about what you guys publish that people respond to?
It's one email, right? It's a newsletter. And you know when it's coming, what time it's coming. You know where it's going to be every day. And so people want to open it. We don't need to have the world is ending. You know where it is. And then we just break down what's happening in the stock market, the real estate market, the crypto market, what's happening with inflation, what's happening in the global economy. And then if there's anything else, we'll add that in there as well. And it's super fun. And so you can avoid that headache, avoid all that, spending hours. And now here it is in a fun, ready to read email.
And what should somebody that in this environment, they want to pay attention, they want to make the right moves, they've listened, they know that you bought your first stock for $2. They know that no matter what they look like, they need to be changing their behaviors, that they need to find assets. Like in this uncertain time, where should people be putting their money? I know there's no one size fits all.
So I'll tell you where I invest my money. I invest my money in 5 places. My business, market briefs, and other startups. I invest my money in real estate, invest my money in stocks, invest some money in cryptocurrency, and invest some money in physical gold. Now, I don't recommend you go on and just start putting your money everywhere. Start with one place.
How did you pick those 5 and how do you allocate what percentage?
So giving a percentage will be hard because valuations change all the time. But I have been less and less actively. Before, my active investment, main one, was real estate. That was the thing that I loved and the thing that I really understood. So anytime I had extra cash, I would go out and buy rental properties. But now I'm doing less and less of that so I can have more money to invest in my own company, market briefs. But now what I do is out of my company's Minority Mindset, I pay myself a salary. Out of that salary, pretty much all of that gets passively invested. It gets invested into stocks, crypto, and physical gold. So what does that mean, right? Well, in stocks, I have a system where every Wednesday, you can pick whatever day, it doesn't really matter. But for me, it's Wednesday. My money is automatically pulled out of my bank account and it's invested into a few different ETFs. So an ETF is an exchange traded fund. And you could think of it like a group of stocks. So instead of going out and investing in Amazon, one company, and then hoping Amazon grows, you invest in a group of companies. Like some will give you exposure to 30, some will give you exposure to 500, some will give you exposure to thousands. There's a bunch of different ETFs out there. And there's ETFs for a bunch of different things. Like one example that I invest in is the S&P 500 ETF. The S&P 500 is a group of the biggest 500 companies on the stock market. And so when you invest in this ETF, you're literally or indirectly / directly investing in the biggest 500 companies on the stock market without individually investing in all of them. You invest in one ticker symbol and it gives you exposure to all of them. So you're in essence investing in the companies that make America, America. You're investing in America. You can invest in specific sectors, technology, healthcare. You can invest in companies around the world, emerging markets. And so you can find these ETFs, again, Google search, YouTube, you'll find kind of the things that you'll see what you're interested in, buy what you're spending your money on. And so that's one thing that I do. I have a few ETFs. Every Wednesday I'm buying that. And then I have my cryptocurrencies. So for me, I think cryptocurrency is going to have a lot of value in the future, but I also believe it's going to be very volatile. I think we're going to see a lot of, just like anything else, there's a lot of dumb money in crypto. And, anytime you have all this money that was printed, right, money's going to want to go to dumb places. And so I think that we're going to see some cryptocurrencies go under. And again, what is that going to do? It's going to create panic. It's going to create volatility. It's going to create fear. So, especially when the newer asset class, you have to be willing to understand that and withstand that. And so, I understand that, I'm not the most educated person in crypto, but I understand the basics. I believe in the value of the blockchain. So I invest in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a couple of the smaller coins, the things that I believe in. And that's happening every day. And then I invest in physical gold. Every month, I have some cash going to buy some physical gold every month. And so this has happening on autopilot. It's automatic, it's passive, and it's consistent. And it's just a simple way for me to invest, because what a lot of people try to do when they invest, they say, I'm going to invest in the stock market. Okay. Either, when times are good, I'm going to try to find the next hot stock, the thing that's been rallying like crazy. Everybody's been making a ton of money on it. So I come in and buy, and that's when it starts to go down. And then they get scared, they lose money, and then they sell. Or when times are bad, they say, I'm going to buy at the bottom. I'm going to wait for that perfect time to come in and buy. And this happened again in 2020 in just textbook form, because the market started collapsing. And it was the fastest collapse that we've ever seen in the markets, even faster than the Great Depression.
Whoa.
And so what I was saying was on YouTube, I said, look, here's what I'm doing. I'm buying. I have the companies that I like, because my ETF strategy is happening passively, but actively, I'm also picking and choosing what I want to buy. I already knew which companies and stuff that I wanted to own. I'm just waiting for a good entry point, a good price to buy. So what I said was, look, when things fall by 10 to 15%, I buy. When it falls by another 10 to 15%, I buy more. When it falls by 10 to 15%, I buy more aggressively. I just buy on the way down in phases, because I can't perfectly time the market. And anytime I said that, it was just a flood of comments, people saying, why would you want to buy now? The whole market's going to implode. It's going to go way lower. Just wait that we can get a better buying opportunity. And I said, I can't predict the bottom. That's not my game. I'm not trying to time the market. I don't got a crystal ball. And then what happened? The Fed opened up the money printer and they did something called unlimited quantitative easing, which is something, we've never really seen before. And so they just flooded the economy and markets with money. And now you had the market, the fastest collapse ever. And then you had the fastest stock market rally in the history of time. And it was like, no, I couldn't predict that. I don't know who could have. But if you were waiting to time the market, you missed the opportunity. And the people that weren't trying to, and you were just, you wait for the good entry point, you're buying, even when everybody's scared, they were the ones that were able to make a lot of money very quickly, way faster than pretty much I could have anticipated or anybody could have anticipated, just because you understood, you buy in phases. Our money, or at least what we call money, is being put to the test, not because of inflation, not because of interest rates, but because of something called debt monetization. Let me explain. Our government doesn't earn money. It collects money through taxes by taxing people like you and me. And in 2022, the government generated about $5 trillion